Jonathan, what are you doing? Where are you? Then, we wanted to make a video about time travel. Beam you over here. Ah, there you are. Where have you been? I'm fresh from the Middle Ages. What were you doing there? I slept with a nun. I hope it was worth it. Hello and welcome to the Matrixers with Shiva and Jonathan. Today's topic is time travel. Especially exciting. Oh yes, correct. Let's start again. I would say yes, with the time paradox. Let's first explain what is time anyway. Time. The time. So in the spiritual scene you know that time is an illusion. But what does that even mean? Time as we know it is linear. And only we as personalities can perceive time as past, present and future. As long as we have personality, we live in linear time. If we get over that at some point, this is what it looks like. This means that the normal person in his normal everyday perception perceives time in two directions. He looks forward to the future and backward to the past. The ego likes to look forward or backward. It's just never in the now. I know that from personal experience. And the younger you are, the more you look into the future and the less into the past. And the older you are, the less we look into the future and the more into the past. This is also one of the reasons why old people tend to talk a lot about their past. Exactly because they practically miss their lives and think, oh, if only I had done it differently then and now my time is over. I walk towards death. They may not be fully conscious, but subconsciously they realize, oh, I'm going to die soon and that's why. They're stuck in the past and because the future doesn't offer them anything anymore. For you, the future is death and that is why you are in the past. Yes, that was probably the reason. Yes, I see it that way too, and today we have the topic of time travel. This means that it is of course also about traveling into the future or about traveling into the past. But we also want to suggest to you that there are also sideways movements on the timeline. Namely alternate realities, the ones that exist alongside us. Correct. That means, from where I am sitting now, I can look into the future and look into the past. But most have trouble looking sideways into time, namely into the alternate realities. Exactly, the alternative realities are, that is, the realities that we didn't choose. For example, you may have considered moving to a new apartment or staying in the old apartment. And so you created a bifurcation at that moment. That means the reality in which you stayed in the old apartment and the reality in which you moved to the new apartment exist parallel to each other, regardless of which reality you choose. And so you can imagine, if you now go through your whole life, at which points in life you were faced with a decision, professional or private, how many alternative realities might have arisen there. It already starts. Should I paint this picture? But that's right. What do you want to become in the future? Do you want to be a nurse? Or kindergarten teacher? Engine driver or stewardess? Or doctor? Are you now studying psychology or astrophysics or education or even law? One of my own works as a vet. Become a veteran? But then you must always have wanted it. Yes, of course. Certainly. I love animals, but that's why I don't want to doctor them. And yes, there are so many alternate realities that run parallel to the everyday reality we find ourselves in. And yes, you can perhaps show a graphic. I have another graphic for you. So you see, there is a reality in which you got married. In one reality you have not married, and in another reality you have children, and in the other no children. In one reality you die at 80, in another reality you die at 90. So all these parallel realities exist, and in higher states of consciousness you can also learn to perceive them. As a reminder, in dreams you are always connected to alternative reality selves and can of course also see and perceive the realities. That's the way it is. Seeing the realities you didn't choose. The engine driver. What has become of him? Or the nurse? What has become of her? And then you can often look in the dreams what has become of these realities. How the selves have developed in this other alternative reality. And then, of course, the question remains, who was the original? That's correct. The question remains in the room, because today it is about time travel. Exactly the time paradox that many of you may know is explained as follows. Exactly. If you build a time machine and go back in time and in the past prevent your parents from getting to know each other, will you still exist in the future? Then there is an exciting answer. Correct. Namely, if you know the past and your parents don't get to know each other because you made sure of it with a time machine, then you can't have built the time machine, can you? Yes, you have, and the answer. Yes, the answer is alternative realities. That means there is a reality where you built a time machine and a reality where you didn't build a time machine. There's a reality where your parents met and a reality where they walked past each other. So when the Shiva goes back in time and ensures that her parents don't meet each other, she enters the reality where the parents never met either. And yet I continue to exist. Because in the other reality they got to know each other. And that solves the time paradox. A time paradox can only be resolved by considering alternative realities. But that also means it is possible to build a time machine. Because many scientists say that because of the time paradox, you can't build a time machine at all. You look so Victorian today. I don't know how that came about either. Where have you been? I was in the Middle Ages. I mean, in Old England. In Old England. What were you doing there again? I visited the old life a bit. Yes. Yes. You forgot to change. Yes. I know. We had an appointment and I thought I had to hurry. That's why I don't take it that seriously now. And that's why I kept it on. Oh yeah. 'Cause your phone call ripped me out in the middle. You see, I couldn't put my shirt on right now, right? I know you couldn't tie. I see. Yes. The nun. The nun? Well, okay, well then, here we are. You Victorian and I medieval. Turn of the century. I think medieval. Yes, but it fits the topic of time travel. Yes, exactly. And then I would say, let's do another topic about time travel. Because you can also go into the past or future with your consciousness and travel. And if you do that and if you go into the past, then of course you can change your now by changing the past. That is, you focus on an event in the past, childhood, something that didn't appeal to you. You have to really focus on it and really want it. And with that, of course, you can change the past. Of course, you can also change the future or bring it into the now by focusing on the future and bringing an event that is supposed to take place in the future into now. Exactly. That's briefly explained. You might want to elaborate on that. So I would say that all the past experiences that you had are actually just, I would say, electromagnetic connections in the brain and in the brain itself. The electromagnetic connection doesn't really matter much now. This means that you can actually imagine past events with the help of your imagination and try again and again to reshape this event, so to speak, so that at some point the electromagnetic connection is created, in which it was then in the past seen as you would have preferred. And of course that affects your life too. For example, if you were always teased or teased as a child and then imagine that everyone was nice and nice to you, now you may be grumpy and also mean to others. But if you keep imagining that everyone is nice and we're nice, then of course you will change too, change your current personality and maybe you will become nicer and nicer now. A very simple example of how you can imagine it. Yes, you can use it to somehow reprogram negative experiences from the past. Because one must not forget, we are computers. Our brain is a computer and we have our personality, which is also just a program. Yes. So that's a possibility. Of course, if someone lost their legs after the accident, it's difficult. Not impossible, but very, very difficult for the everyday conscious person. Because you always have the evidence of the missing legs in front of your eyes. And going back in time and imagining you didn't get in the car and you kept your legs is harder to pull off. So maybe you should first try to apply it on a psychological level. Maybe in situations that involved too much emotion or that were somehow negative or that weighed down on you in the present. So you could start there. Time travel can also take place into the future. But here, too, one must mention that there are several futures. You can of course ask the clairvoyants or the mediums. A medium, of course, sees a future, but it's not just a possible future. I actually see futures every now and then as flash, but they don't have to happen that way, even if they have so far. But they were always personal. As for, I don't know, the world is concerned. If a Nostradamus says it will end in 2012, that can probably be true for a world that might not be true for this one anymore. So that means a clairvoyant is right about what he sees in the future, but only within one reality, within one future. There are several futures that are side by side. You can imagine it like this. You are in the middle. That is the present and the past scatters like rays into the past. Alternative possibilities. Alternative pasts. The future looks the same. Is like a shining star. Nearly. And of course that all depends on every single decision you make. With every decision you enter a reality. And the other one will of course also be created because you didn't decide on that. It actually happens all the time at every crossroads you come across in your life. Am I going to do this or that? Then that's exactly how it is. That's how it looks. That's how you can imagine it. And that is of course also due to the fact that all realities already exist due to the simultaneity. We haven't experienced anything like that yet. Yes, you always notice that. All realities at once. Exactly. How was it for you? Present. The future and all of eternity in a single moment where now moments exist. And the now, that's really your body. You cannot perceive that in a second that has passed. And in the future second you can really only perceive now. Everything that exists is now very exciting. I have experienced this twice and yes, can you do it? Can you do it? And that's the point of realizing that all realities have always existed. We are the ones who choose which path to follow. One usually walks, or actually wants to walk, the path of the true self. That's exactly what you did, experienced or seen, and one tries to follow in the footsteps of the true self. And with every decision you make the right one, don't you? Yes, and of course it can happen like a journey through time. Above all, if you imagine it now, the life of reincarnation, other lives in other epochs. If you also look at them as alternative realities, and they are happening now. Even now I am currently in Old England and live my life there. Yes, you can imagine it like that. So reality exists at the same time. The only question is, where is the focus, the attention? Exactly. And in reality we are not even here, but in a completely different dimension and dream ourselves here. That also exists. We have also noticed our future self, which will also exist in about 300 years. Everything is simultaneous, and that's pretty strange. In any case. And one more thing about time travel. Of course, there are also beings who travel through time. Actually,